Welcome to session 3 of the practice of marriage, and we are going to be looking at, in this third session, our 8th session overall, the pitfall of parenting. Parenting, depending on which research you subscribe to, is always ranked as one of the top 3 reasons for divorce. Now remember, in the practice of marriage, what we're looking at here is we are trying to identify, according to Song of Solomon 2:15, those little foxes that can creep into our vineyards that can destroy our marriage, those foxes that we need to catch and we need to remove. And so we're basically going to take a look over the next several sessions of the top 3 reasons for divorce. And we're going, again, remember, we are not trying to develop an exhaustive list, but we're trying to look at a comprehensive. And then what's going to happen is you're going to take this comprehensive list and you're going to develop it more exhaustively, as in later sessions you're going to learn about the investment you need to be making in an ongoing way into your marriage. So Psalm 127 verses 1 through 5 says this: "Unless the Lord builds a house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives to his beloved sleep. Behold, children are a heritage," this is key, "from the Lord, but the fruit of the womb a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate." And so what we see here is we see that children have never been given to man as an endangerment to marriage, but he's been given to man as an enrichment. Notice it says that children are a heritage. They're a gift from God. Now, they're not ours to hold on to. They're not ours to keep. They're not ours to own. They're ours to steward. That's the word of stewardship. We are to have skill with our children. It says, like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. And these children, again, they enrich. It says, "Blessed is the man whose quiver is full." So they're an enrichment to our marriage, not an endangerment to our marriage. So how does children become a pitfall? Well, one pitfall that has destroyed many marriages is the elevation of children within the family construct. Many couples place their children above their marriage, believing this is noble. And this happens all the time, is that we have people who elevate children to a level within the marriage that simply the Bible does not do. Instead of them being gifts to steward, they become ownership. These are our kids. These are the kids that we own, and we hold to them too tightly instead of holding them like arrows and seeing that we are to steward them well, that we are to in our stewardship be skilled, because our responsibility here is to shoot those arrows, not to hold on to them, but to shoot those arrows out of the home into the world, so that the world might be blessed by them. The world might be, to some degree, a better place because of them, so that they might have lives of significance, lives that bring honor and glory to God. And so this is our duty. This is our role. This is our responsibility. And what happens is when children move from gifts to be steward to gifts that we own, then children can often become our gods. They can become the very driving force behind our marriage. This doesn't enrich, but this is what erodes marriages. Children will not benefit from parents with a fixated focus. Parents who place all of their time, energy, and attention on their children, who are fixated on their children, they will not enrich the children's lives, nor will they enrich their marriage. But we're talking about this is a type of activity that brings about erosion within the family construct, and even within the children themselves. I have counseled with many couples whose marriages were eroding. If if they have children, I will ask, when was your last date night? This is followed by, when did you last get away for a night or for a weekend without your children? This is so incredibly important because so many parents, when I ask this question, can't remember the last time they did a date night or they did a night or a weekend away without their children. And that only serves to prove the situation all the more, is that there's been too much of a fixation on the children and not enough fixation on building and enriching the marriage. And so now what was given to enrich the marriage, which are the children, have now turned around and become this gift is now become an endangerment and is really beginning to erode away at the fabric of the relationship. You will not parent well without prioritizing your relationship. How many times have you heard of couples divorcing within months or a year after their last child became independent? Why? Their marriage lost its identity. Their children became the ingredient that held their institution of marriage together. When you lose what binds you, there you break apart. So the glue that held them together, their whole identity, their whole relationship, was wrapped up in the child or the children. Now that that's gone, they look at each other as strangers. There's really no reason for them to remain together or stay together, because the very reason that their relationship existed was the child. I'm not saying that relationship is not savable or repairable or reconcilable, but what I am saying is that often is that we're talking now, we're 18, 20, 25 years into the marriage, and the erosion is so great that most couples can see no recourse for reconciliation. And that's why we see many of those relationships fall apart at that point. So here's the question. With children, how do we ultimately avoid the pitfalls of our children, who are meant to enrich our marriage, becoming an instrument of erosion and endangerment? Well, let's talk about a few of the pitfalls, how to avoid them. Number one, understand children are transient. You have them a short time. Your responsibility is to help them to fly the coop, as the old Southern saying, to leave their parents and cleave to their spouse. Hopefully your children will be married one day. If not, if God grants the gift of singleness, it's not to be single in your home. It's to be single on their own as a grown individual, as an adult standing on their own 2 feet. These children are transient. 18 to 22 years is probably the max shelf life for a child in the life of a family. Also, avoid this pitfall by remembering that your marriage preceded children, and it is to exceed them as well. Children were there prior to your marriage, and they need to be there post. And so your marriage existed before children, and it needs to exceed them as well. Investing in your marriage. Avoid the pitfalls by investing in your marriage. An investment in your marriage is an investment in your children. Men, take the lead. Plan one night getaways, weekend excursions, date nights. Don't leave this to your wife. Remember, you have been called to direct. So you've got to invest. If money's tight, you've got to be even more creative. How can we make this happen on limited budgets? But there needs to be times where you do invest financially in your marriage, whether it's through gifts or trips, but you've got to plan one-on-one time, and guys, you have to make this happen. If you struggle with this, feel free to give me a call, give me a text, send me an email, hit me up on Facebook, and say, hey, I'm not very creative. Can you help me out? I'm not creative as well, but the one thing that I have learned over the last 10 years of my marriage is how to get creative where the creative people are. And I think if you talk to my wife, you would learn that I have put together some pretty romantic trips, and whether it's weekends or one nights or date nights, and I can help walk you through that. I can also point you to some good places where you can get some great ideas as well. Avoid the pitfalls by initiating a relationship with a couple whose marriage you would most want to emulate. Find that couple, look around. They need to have at least been married 20 years. Find the couple that's got some years behind them. And when you look at their marriage, you're like, in 20 years, I want us to be in that place in our marriage. Find them and ask them, invite yourself into their relationship. Ask them, can you spend some time with them because you see something in their relationship that you want in your relationship. There is an emulation there that you desire. And the only way that you can imitate what they're doing is by getting involved with them in their life. And I'm sure if you find people that are that possess that, they won't mind you coming into their life. Avoid the pitfalls by involving yourself in ongoing marital education. Never quit investing in your marriage. Read marriage books. Go to marriage conferences. Educate. And if you need help with that, then let me know. I can give you plenty of information and of videos, books, seminars, in how you do continuing education in your marriage. Communicating with one another concerning positive and negative aspects of your relationship. Consider setting up a grading scale like you would in school, and evaluate your marriage by using what I'm going to call the ACTS process. So here it is. Affirmation. Affirm a quality in your spouse that brings great benefit to your life. You are looking to affirm internal qualities, not external qualities. Example, you look sexy in your red dress is not affirming. You inspire me to live a selfless life by the way you care for others. That's affirming. And so before we get into, really grading each other, we need to affirm each other. And we also need to grade how well we do affirm each other. Some of us are going to be much more affirming than others. But remember, affirmation is not about pointing out somebody's physical qualities. It's about pointing out what's internal, those aspects of their personhood that are internal, not those parts of their personhood that are external. I would say for me, I don't do a good job of affirmation. I'm not a very affirming person. I usually don't score very well on this. However, I don't feel defeated by that. It is just something that I continually commit myself to work at better. But we need to spend time affirming one another, and we need to encourage each other to be more affirming. Also, confession. Confess current and perceived deficiencies in your marriage, and ask your spouse to convey any deficiencies that they have observed. So again, it always serves a marriage well when you are willing to admit to what you're not doing well, and then as the spouse who is listening to this, what your role is in this relationship is either to confirm those confessed deficiencies, or to make your spouse aware of certain deficiencies that you have observed. Now remember, this is not a time to get bristled and defensive. This is a time to accept what you hear and understand that your spouse is not trying to be vindictive, or they're not trying to humiliate you. Hopefully you're humbled by what you hear, and you have a heart that's ready to respond in addressing those deficiencies that have been observed either by yourself or by your spouse. Then thankfulness. Thank your spouse specifically for ways they have blessed your life and your family's life. Be thankful that they're willing to listen, and thank them that they're willing to confess. And thankfulness is not the same as affirmation. Affirmation is something that you see in their life that you want to affirm. Again, this is more of an internal an observation of their internal quality and character. Thankfulness is more as an observation of their actions and their the way that they are performing, if I can use that word. So spend time being thankful for each other, and then support. Commit to support one another in those areas of deficiencies where you've given them that grade. And consider reciting your vows to each other as a statement of support. How often should you do this ACTS process? Affirm, confess, thankfulness, support. Maybe once a quarter, twice a year. I wouldn't necessarily say do it every month, but I mean that's doable. Definitely not every week, but somewhere between twice, 2 to 4 to 6 to no more than 12 times a year. And really consider reciting your vows to each other at the end of this affirming, confessing, and thankfulness together. And the reason is because, remember, this reminds you of the covenant that you have made with each other, and this is the basis of your love. Now, let's talk about strife for a moment. Parenting causes marital strife when there has been no preparation. Parenting causes marital strife when there has been no preparation. And so one of the things that you must do is you've got to avoid this pitfall. And the way you avoid this pitfall is by determining how and who will exercise discipline. Who's going to do the discipline, and how's it going to be carried out. This is vitally important. Some grow up in timeout cultures of discipline, and others grow up in a disciplined environment, such like I did. I call it patriotic discipline. My dad laid stripes, I saw stars, and so that could be a point of contention. That could cause a lot of strife within a marriage because there is a differing of opinion on how children will be disciplined. That needs to be determined before children are brought into the family. Avoid the pitfall by determining how children will be educated. Some were educated homeschool, public school, private school. That needs to be determined as well. So how are you going to educate your children? It needs to be determined as well. And then you also need to avoid this pitfall by determining the number of children. Some want big families, some want small families. So there needs to be a discussion as to, especially if there's a difference in number, a compromise needs to be reached on the number of children that you're going to have. Again, I've seen this many, many times, the varying of opinions on the number of children. And ultimately, there seems to have been a resolution prior to the marriage, but then once they get into the marriage, again, the person that wanted more wants more, and the person that wanted less thinks that what they already have is too many. So really work through and make this a point of emphasis on the number of children that you're going to have. And then avoid this pitfall by determining to educate yourself in the art of parenting. Much like I said, invest in your marriage through continuing education. You need to invest in yourself in learning how to parent. Again, get around people who parent like you want to parent. Be a student of parenting. Seminars, books, all will be very beneficial be very beneficial to helping you become a better parent. Now, let me say this to you. I said this list was comprehensive but not exhaustive. The exhaustive part is you've got to take uh, this information, and you've got to take it deeper. We don't have time to go into all of this, but you have got to make it a point of emphasis to go deeper. Why? Because ignorance will destroy your marriage. Leaders who quit learning either fail to lead or fail to lead well. So husbands, you cannot sit back and wait for your wife to take the lead in this.